My name is Sophia Bennett. I was 34 years old when I learned that the fastest way to discover who someone truly is isn't when they're struggling. It's when your child shines in a way they never expected. Looking back now, people assume everything started the day I cut off my sister financially. It didn't. That decision was only the consequence. The real beginning happened during a family dinner that should have been one of the happiest evenings of my daughter's life. The warning signs had been there for years. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The dining room glowed with warm yellow light that evening. My mother's house always looked beautiful during family gatherings. Candles flickered across the center of the table. Old family photographs covered the walls. Laughter drifted in from the kitchen. From the outside, we looked like the kind of family people envied. Inside, cracks had already started forming. My daughter Chloe sat beside me, 8 years old, quiet, observant, the kind of child who noticed details other people missed. She had barely touched her dinner. Instead, she kept glancing toward a wrapped frame resting beside her chair. Every few minutes, she would smile nervously and then look away. She had spent weeks working on that gift. Weeks. I knew because I'd watched every stage of it. The frustration, the erased lines, the endless practice sketches, the determination. Across the table sat my older sister, Vanessa Carter, and her daughter Olivia. Vanessa had always been competitive. Not openly, not in a way people could easily point at. Her jealousy lived beneath the surface, hidden behind smiles, hidden behind jokes, hidden behind carefully chosen words. Most people never noticed. I had spent years making excuses for her. That night, I stopped, finally. Chloe stood up. Her small hands gripped the frame. "Grandma," she said softly, "I made something for you." The room quieted. My mother smiled immediately. "Oh, sweetheart, you didn't have to." But Chloe was already carrying it toward her. She carefully unwrapped the paper and turned the frame around. The reaction was immediate. My mother covered her mouth. Several people leaned forward. Even my father stopped eating. Inside the frame was a charcoal portrait, not a simple drawing. A portrait, my mother sitting on her porch swing, the sunlight touching one side of her face, the gentle wrinkles around her eyes, the texture of the wooden boards beneath her feet, even the tiny wind chime hanging beside the railing. Everything was there. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then my mother whispered, "Chloe, this looks exactly like me." I felt pride swell inside my chest. Not because she was talented, because she had worked so hard. Before I could say anything, a voice cut through the silence. A sharp voice. A familiar voice. "Vanessa." She made a small, scoffing sound. The kind designed to ruin a moment. "Oh, please." The room shifted instantly. I turned toward her. She folded her arms. "She's not creative." She probably traced it from Pinterest. The words landed like a slap. For a second I thought I had misheard. Chloe was still standing beside my mother, still holding the bottom of the frame. The smile disappeared from her face. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Vanessa shrugged. "I've seen identical drawings online." Nobody moved. Nobody interrupted. Nobody defended Chloe. My stomach tightened. "Chloe doesn't even use Pinterest," I said. "You can print references." Vanessa replied casually. As if she were discussing the weather, I looked around the table. My father suddenly became interested in his water glass. My boyfriend Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside me. My mother stared down at the portrait. Everyone was waiting for the tension to pass. No one wanted to get involved. Then my cousin Madeline leaned forward. Her expression hardened. "That's low." "Vanessa." Vanessa rolled her eyes. Madeline wasn't finished. "But not low enough." The room grew quiet again. Madeline looked directly at my sister. "You don't even know that Chloe was the youngest finalist in the National Arts Showcase." Everything stopped. Vanessa blinked. "What?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone. Not because I wasn't proud, because Chloe had asked me not to. She hated pressure. She wanted to draw because she loved it, not because people expected something from her. Now, every face at the table had turned toward me. Madeline gave me an apologetic look. The secret was out. I sighed slowly. It's true. My mother looked stunned. The National Arts Showcase. I nodded. They contacted us 3 weeks ago. The silence deepened. She's one of 5 finalists in her age group. Vanessa laughed. A short, sharp laugh. You're serious. Very. I explained how the judges had discovered Chloe's work through her art teacher, how they had requested process photos, how they had required verification, how Chloe had even completed a live video sketch session. As I spoke, I watched Vanessa. Not embarrassment, not pride, not surprise, fear. A strange, ugly fear, like someone watching attention move away from them. When I finished, she crossed her arms tighter. Anyone can fake that. Chloe looked down at the floor. I saw her fingers tighten around the frame. She was trying not to cry. That was when something inside me shifted. This wasn't skepticism. This wasn't concern. Vanessa wanted Chloe diminished. She wanted her embarrassed. She wanted her achievement questioned. And deep down, I already knew why. For the past 2 years, I had been quietly helping Vanessa survive. After her divorce, she couldn't afford Olivia's private school tuition. So I paid it. When rent became difficult, I covered half of it every month. Nobody in the family knew. Vanessa preferred it that way. She liked people believing she handled everything herself. I never asked for credit. But sitting there, watching her attack my daughter, I suddenly realized something. Gratitude had never existed. Only entitlement. Madeline broke the silence again. I saw the confirmation email. She looked at Chloe and smiled. Chicago next month. Right. Chloe nodded. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Then, she said something I would remember for a very long time. I guess we'll see what happens when she has to draw without tracing. The room went completely silent. Even my father looked uncomfortable. Finally, Chloe spoke. Her voice was tiny. I don't trace. Nobody answered her. Nobody except me. And years later, that would remain the part I could never forget. I didn't sleep that night. The house was quiet. Chloe had gone to bed hours earlier. But I kept replaying the dinner over and over inside my head. The way her smile disappeared. The way Vanessa had chosen the exact moment my daughter was vulnerable. The way everyone else had looked away. Most of all, I couldn't stop hearing Chloe's voice. I don't trace. 8 years old. Defending herself against accusations she never should have had to hear. Around midnight, I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. The glow from my phone illuminated the dark room. That's when I saw the email. The subject line made my stomach drop. Urgent concern regarding finalist submission. For several seconds, I simply stared at the screen. Then I opened it. The National Arts Showcase had received an anonymous complaint. Someone claimed Chloe's artwork had been plagiarized. The message included screenshots, Pinterest references, links, detailed accusations. The competition organizers wanted additional proof of originality before allowing Chloe to continue as a finalist. My hands went cold. There were only a handful of people who knew about the competition, and one of them had spent the entire evening accusing my daughter of tracing. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Ethan appeared in the doorway. He took one look at my face. What happened? I handed him the phone. He read the email. His expression darkened. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he asked quietly, "You think Vanessa did it?" I laughed bitterly. Who else even knew? The question lingered in the air. Neither of us needed an answer. The next 48 hours became a scramble. The competition wanted evidence. Lots of evidence. Process photos. Sketch drafts. Timestamps. Verification material. Another monitored live drawing session. The next morning, I woke Chloe before school. She immediately looked worried. Am I in trouble? The question broke my heart. No. Sweetheart. I forced a smile. I just need your help. She relaxed slightly and led me to her room. What happened next amazed even me. Chloe kept everything. Every sketchbook, every practice page, every failed attempt, every erased drawing. Stacks of paper covered her floor. Hands. Yes. Shading exercises. Perspective studies. Pages filled with porch railings because she couldn't get the angles right. Pages of my mother's hands. Pages of sunlight patterns. Pages of mistakes. Dozens and dozens of mistakes. The kind only real artists make. For hours. Ethan photographed everything. As I watched the evidence pile up across the dining table, I felt a mixture of pride and rage. Pride, because Chloe had worked so hard. Rage, because someone had forced her to prove herself. Again, after school that afternoon, she completed another live drawing session. 2 judges monitored her through a video call. A mug, an apple, a folded napkin. Simple objects. The judges deliberately changed the arrangement halfway through. Chloe didn't hesitate. She adjusted immediately. Naturel, confident, focused. When the session ended, one of the judges smiled warmly. Thank you. Chloe. The second judge nodded. Excellent work. That evening, we received confirmation. Her finalist position was secure. The accusation had been dismissed. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt furious. Because the anonymous complaint contained something that bothered me. A detail too specific to ignore. The complaint referenced a Pinterest board. Not just any Pinterest board. Vanessa's favorite home decor board. It even used the same phrase she'd used during dinner. Anyone can fake that. The exact wording. The exact attitude. The exact accusation. Coincidence no longer felt possible. The following morning, I called her. She answered on the 3rd ring. What? No greeting. No. Hello. Just irritation. Did you contact the arts showcase? Silence. Brief. But noticeable. What are you talking about? An anonymous complaint was filed against Chloe. Another pause. Then, that's crazy. I waited. She kept talking. Maybe somebody saw the drawing online. It referenced your Pinterest board. The silence lasted longer this time. Then she laughed. You think I'd sabotage an 8-year-old? I think you tried to humiliate her in front of the entire family. Oh my God. Sophia, you're being dramatic. Something inside me snapped. Dramatic. I stood from my chair. Dramatic. Ethan looked up from across the room. I lowered my voice. For 2 years, I've paid Olivia's tuition. Silence. I've covered half your rent. More silence. And you attacked my daughter. You don't need to throw that in my face. Her voice became defensive immediately. The irony almost made me laugh. I never have. Then don't start now. I closed my eyes, took a breath, tried one last time. Did you do it? The answer never came. Instead, she said something worse. Something far more revealing. You don't get to act superior just because your kid can draw. There it was. Not denial. Not outrage. Jealousy. Pure jealousy. The kind that festers for years. The kind that poisons everything it touches. I ended the call. No. Goodbye. No warning. Nothing. For several minutes, I sat quietly. Then I opened my laptop. The tuition portal appeared on my screen. Olivia's private school account. Next month's payment was already scheduled. I stared at it for a long time. Long enough for doubt to creep in. Olivia wasn't responsible for any of this. She was a good kid. Kind. Polite. Nothing like her mother. But another image surfaced in my mind. Chloe standing beside that portrait, trying not to cry, trying not to embarrass herself, trying to understand why her aunt hated her accomplishment. My hand moved. I clicked cancel payment. The confirmation window appeared. I pressed confirm. The transaction disappeared. Then I opened my banking app. The automatic monthly transfer for Vanessa's rent appeared. I deleted that too. One click, then another. 2 years of financial support ended in less than 60 seconds. Oddly enough, I felt calm, not angry, not guilty, calm, like I'd finally stopped carrying something heavy. The next morning, my phone exploded. 12 missed calls, 8 text messages, 3 voicemails, every one from Vanessa. I ignored them. At noon, a new message arrived. "What did you do?" I stared at the screen, then replied, "You don't get to attack my child and still expect my support." Less than an hour later, someone pounded on my front door. Not knocked, pounded. The sound echoed through the house. Ethan was working remotely that day. He reached the door first. By the time I stepped into the hallway, Vanessa was already storming inside. Her face was flushed, her eyes wild. Why did Olivia's school call me? Ethan stepped aside reluctantly. I folded my arms. Because I canceled the payment. You can't do that. I just did. Her mouth fell open. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked, as if the possibility had never crossed her mind. "You know I don't have that money." "I know." Her voice softened instantly. The anger disappeared. Now came manipulation. "Sophia. Olivia will have to transfer schools." I didn't answer. She moved closer. "She's innocent." "I know." "Then why are you punishing her?" "I'm not." "Then what do you call this?" I looked directly into her eyes. "Consequences." She laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "Consequences. Because I made one comment." My patience evaporated. "One comment." I stepped forward. "You publicly accused Chloe of tracing. You embarrassed her. You attacked her accomplishment. And somebody submitted a plagiarism complaint hours later." "I didn't do that." "The complaint quoted your Pinterest board." "That proves nothing." "Maybe not legally, but emotionally, it proved everything." I knew my sister. For the first time in my life, I finally stopped making excuses for her. And that realization hurt more than I expected. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Vanessa stood in my living room, staring at me as if I were the one betraying her. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't hurt so much. Finally, she shook her head. "I can't believe you're doing this." I almost laughed. Doing this? As if she hadn't spent weeks, maybe years, letting resentment grow inside her. As if Chloe's tears at that dinner table had never happened. As if anonymous accusations and public humiliation were somehow less serious than losing financial support. Ethan stepped forward. His voice remained calm. "Vanessa, you crossed the line." She turned toward him immediately. "You stay out of this." "No." His answer was firm. "You walked into our house?" For the first time, she seemed unsure of herself. Her eyes moved between us, looking for weakness, looking for guilt, looking for the version of me that always fixed things, the version that had existed for years, the version that kept paying bills, the version that kept forgiving. That woman was gone. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. The color drained from her face. What I asked? She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Olivia's school." Neither Ethan nor I said anything. "They emailed me." Her voice cracked. "If the balance isn't paid within 10 days, they'll release her spot." For a brief second, my resolve wavered. Because Olivia wasn't the villain. She was a child. An innocent child trapped inside an adult's mistakes. Vanessa saw the hesitation immediately. Like a shark smelling blood and water. Please. Her voice softened. We can work something out. I remained silent. I'll apologize to Chloe. There it was. The offer. Not genuine remorse. A transaction. An exchange. An apology in return for money. I shook my head. No. She stared at me. No. You don't get to use apologies as currency. The expression on her face hardened. Every trace of vulnerability vanished. Without another word. She walked out. The front door slammed behind her. I honestly believed that would be the end. I was wrong. 3 days later, my mother called me crying. The moment I heard her voice, I knew something had happened. What is it? It's your sister. Of course it was. My stomach tightened. What did she do? My mother hesitated. Then Sahil. She's telling everyone you're blackmailing her. I closed my eyes. For several seconds I couldn't even respond. What? She says you're threatening to stop helping her, unless she publicly praises Chloe. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. The story wasn't even close to reality. Yet, I already knew people would believe it. Vanessa had always been good at positioning herself as the victim. The struggling single mother. The overlooked daughter. The woman everyone underestimated. It was a role she'd perfected, and she was using it again. The situation became worse that same afternoon. Much worse. Madeline called me. The second I answered, she asked, "Have you checked Facebook?" My heart dropped. No. Don't panic. The words guaranteed I would. I opened the app. Within seconds, I found the post. Vanessa hadn't used Chloe's name. She didn't need to. Our town was small. Everyone knew. The post talked about privilege. About parents buying opportunities. About competitions that failed to verify originality. About children receiving praise they didn't deserve. Then came the sentence that made my hands shake. Some kids trace and get celebrated. Some kids work hard and get ignored. Hundreds of reactions. Dozens of comments. Speculation. Rumors. Question. People tagging each other. People discussing Chloe. People discussing my family. People discussing an 8-year-old child. One comment read, "I saw the drawing. Looks like Pinterest to me." Another, "Talent is great. But honesty matters." I felt physically sick. Ethan took my phone. Screenshot everything. I nodded. We documented every comment. Every accusation. Every insinuation. By evening, the screenshots filled an entire folder. The next morning, Chloe's art teacher called. Her voice sounded concerned. "Sophia, I just saw what's happening." I rubbed my forehead. "I'm sorry. How is Chloe?" The question caught me off guard, because until that moment, I'd been focused on Vanessa, on the accusations, on the competition, not on Chloe. Not enough. That afternoon, I found out exactly how much damage had already been done. When Chloe came home from school, something felt wrong. Immediately. Normally, she talked non-stop. Stories. Questions. Random observations. That day, she said nothing. She walked straight to her room. No snack, no smile, no excitement. I followed her upstairs. She sat on the edge of her bed. Quiet. Too quiet. "Sweetheart." She looked down. I sat beside her. "What happened?" For several seconds, she didn't answer. Then she whispered, "A girl asked if I cheated." The words hit me like a punch. I felt my chest tighten. "What did you say?" Chloe shrugged. "I told her I didn't." That was it. No tears. No anger. No drama. Just sadness. The kind children shouldn't have to carry. I wrapped my arms around her. She leaned into me. Small, fragile, brave. And at that moment, any lingering sympathy I felt for Vanessa disappeared. Completely. That night, I contacted the National Arts Showcase again. Not about the plagiarism accusation, about the online campaign, about the public insinuations, about the damage being done to a minor. The response arrived the next morning. Their legal department was already aware, because Chloe was a verified finalist, and a child publicly suggesting fraud could qualify as defamation. They requested the post, the screenshots, the evidence. I sent everything. 2 days later, Vanessa received a formal cease and desist letter. The phone call came almost immediately. She sounded furious. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything. Lawyers contacted me. You posted it. You could have talked to me." I stared at the wall. The audacity was almost impressive. "I tried talking to you." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, her anger cracked. When she spoke again, her voice sounded tired, different. "Smela, you know why this bothers me so much?" I didn't answer. For the first time, I wanted to hear the truth. "When we were kids," she continued, "you were always the talented one." I closed my eyes. Here it was. The real reason. The wound beneath everything else. "You got the scholarships." She laughed bitterly. "The awards. The praise. The attention." I remained silent. "And now Chloe gets all of it too." Her voice broke. "And Olivia struggles." The room felt strangely still. For a moment, I saw my sister not as the woman who attacked my daughter, but as a little girl carrying decades of resentment. A girl who never healed. A girl who spent years comparing herself to someone else. And now, she was repeating the same mistake through her own child. "That's not Chloe's fault." The words came quietly. "I know." The answer surprised me. For the first time, she sounded honest. "It still hurts." Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered Chloe sitting on her bed, being asked if she cheated, being forced to defend herself, being punished for succeeding. The sympathy disappeared. "Take the money away." Vanessa's voice hardened again. "Fine. But don't drag lawyers into this." I shook my head. "You did that yourself." She didn't answer. The call ended shortly afterward. The cease and desist required a public retraction, a clear correction, a removal of the accusations. 48 hours later, Vanessa deleted the original post, but instead of apologizing, she posted something new, something that made the entire situation even worse. The new status read, "I was misinterpreted." I never mentioned any names. People are free to draw their own conclusions. That was it. No correction, no rétraction, no apology. Just another match thrown onto the fire. And this time, the legal team wasn't interested in warnings anymore. The legal department moved quickly after that, much faster than Vanessa expected. Her second post was exactly the opposite of what the cease and desist required. Instead of correcting the record, she had doubled down. Instead of protecting a child, she had protected her pride. The consequences arrived almost immediately. Sponsors connected to the National Arts Showcase began asking questions. Competition officials were forced to spend time responding to rumors instead of celebrating young artists. What had started as jealousy inside one family was now creating problems on a national level. Vanessa called me again. This time, she wasn't angry. She was terrified. "They're threatening to sue me." I listened quietly. "They can't do this. They can..." Her breathing became shaky. "I can't afford a lawyer." For a second, I almost heard the old version of my sister. The vulnerable one. The frightened one. The woman I had spent years trying to rescue. Then she said something that brought me right back to reality. "This wouldn't be happening if you hadn't stopped helping me." I closed my eyes. Even now, even after everything, it was still someone else's fault. "No. Vanessa." My voice remained calm. This happened because you went after an 8-year-old. She started crying, loudly, frantically, the way people cry when they finally realize consequences are real. You've destroyed my life. I looked toward Chloe, who was sketching quietly at the kitchen table. No, I spoke softly. You did that yourself. The line went silent. A few seconds later, she hung up. 2 days afterward, my mother arrived at my house without warning. She looked exhausted, older, like the last several weeks had drained years from her. She sat at my kitchen table and wrapped both hands around a coffee mug. For several moments, she simply stared into it. Then she sighed. Can't you fix this? I already knew what she meant. Fix what? Your sister is falling apart. I leaned back. Mom. She publicly accused Chloe of cheating. I know. There are lawyers involved because of what she did. I know. I waited. My mother looked away. Then she quietly said, She says you're overreacting. I laughed. The sound surprised even me. Because it wasn't bitter anymore. It was tired. Just tired. Of course she does. My mother hesitated. Then, she said something unexpected. She asked me for money. I blinked. What? To replace the tuition support. And my mother met my eyes. I said no. For a moment, I didn't speak. Neither did she. Then she continued. I told her, actions have consequences. The words hung between us, and for the first time since all of this started, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Because someone else finally saw it. Someone else finally stopped making excuses. A week later, the National Arts Showcase released an official statement. Professional, measured, clear. They outlined their extensive verification procedures and publicly reaffirmed Chloe's finalist status. They never mentioned Vanessa. They never referenced the drama. They simply confirmed the truth. The rumors began fading almost immediately. Attention returned to the competition itself. Eventually, Vanessa posted an actual retraction. Short, cold, forced. I regret my previous statements. There was no plagiarism involved. That was all. No apology, no accountability, no acknowledgement of the damage she'd caused. But by then, it didn't matter. The relationship had already broken. Some fractures can't be repaired, only managed. A few weeks later, Chloe and I boarded a plane to Chicago. The city felt enormous compared to our quiet Ohio suburb. The convention center seemed even bigger. Artists, families, judges, media, students carrying portfolios, creative energy everywhere. Chloe held her sketchbook against her chest. Her eyes were wide. This is huge. I smiled. It is. But secretly, I was nervous. Not about whether she would win, about whether she'd enjoy the experience after everything she'd endured. The finalists gathered inside the main competition hall. Large blank drawing boards waited on stage. The final challenge would be revealed in real time. No preparation, no advance notice, no advantage. The giant screen flickered. Then one word appeared. Inheritance. I felt a strange chill. The timing seemed almost unreal. Inheritance. What do we pass down? Talent. Money. Pain. Resentment. Kindness. The timer started. The room fell silent. Most contestants immediately began sketching obvious ideas. Family trees. Old houses. Jewelry. Heirlooms. Chloe sat still for several seconds, thinking. Then, she started drawing. Hands first. Older hands. Younger hands. Connected. Supporting. Protecting. Slowly, the image expanded. A porch swing appeared in the background. A notebook on a nearby table. A city skyline faintly visible through a distant window. No faces. No names. No direct explanations. Just generations connected through care and memory. I watched quietly. For the first time in weeks, She looked completely at peace. The timer ended. The judges moved through the room, studying each piece as they approached Chloe's drawing. One judge stopped, then another. They spent longer there than anywhere else. I tried not to read too much into it. Hours later, the awards ceremony began. The lights felt impossibly bright. Third place was announced. Then second, neither was Chloe. My heart pounded. I squeezed Ethan's hand. He had flown in that morning to be there for the results. Then the announcer smiled. And this year's National Arts Showcase first place winner is... A pause. A moment that felt endless. Chloe Bennett. The room erupted into applause. For a second, Chloe didn't move, as if she wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. Then she stood. Small, steady, braver than most adults I know. I don't remember much after that. Only flashes. Her walking onto the stage, the oversized plaque in her hands, the smile she tried unsuccessfully to hide, the tears gathering in my eyes. Afterward, one of the judges approached me. "Your daughter is remarkable." I smiled. "Thank you." He shook his head. "No." He looked toward Chloe. "She doesn't just know how to draw." His expression softened. "She understands stories." That's much rarer. On the flight home, Chloe fell asleep against my shoulder. For the first time in months, everything felt quiet, peaceful. My phone buzzed. A message from Vanessa. I opened it. I saw the announcement online. Congratulations. That was all. No sarcasm. No accusation. No bitterness. Just one word. Congratulations. I stared at the screen for a long time. It was probably the closest thing to sincerity she had offered throughout the entire ordeal. I typed several responses, deleted them, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I wrote 2 simple words. Thank you. We never truly reconciled after that. I never restarted the tuition payments. I never resumed the rent transfers. Eventually, Vanessa downsized her apartment. Olivia transferred to a public school. And, like most children, she adapted far better than the adults around her. Family gatherings changed. Holidays became separate. Communication faded into occasional updates about our mother's health and little else. People often assume the breaking point was the Facebook post, or the lawyers, or the money. They're wrong. The breaking point happened much earlier. It happened the moment my 8-year-old daughter stood beside a portrait she had spent weeks creating and quietly said, "I don't trace." And nobody defended her. Nobody except me. That was the moment everything changed. Because some lines, once crossed, redraw the entire picture. And this time, I chose my daughter over keeping the peace